The pyramids of Giza, a wonder of the world, still shrouded in mystery.
These are still some of the most incredible buildings that humankind has ever built.
Giza's 3 pyramids are synonymous with ancient Egypt. But then archaeologists investigate a rock plateau nearby, and what they find astonishes them.
Could there be another pyramid lost to history?
An immense foundation, square. A 4th pyramid? Is Giza, one of the wonders of the world, not truly complete?
This is amazing. It makes everything so clear.
Archaeologists set about trying to uncover the mystery of the lost pyramid. Who was it built for?
Who is this mysterious pharaoh? How do we know so little about his reign?
The great puzzle of the 4th pyramid. And more importantly, why is it no longer standing? Great myths of humanity. For thousands of years, they have captivated and mystified us, fueling our imaginations. But what if the legends are more than just stories? Researchers from across the globe are trying to unravel the great mysteries of history. The Giza Plateau, 15 kilometers from Cairo. A tourist magnet. It is here that 3 of the most impressive structures ever built by humanity stand. The monumental tombs of the pharaohs from the time of the Old Kingdom. Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, father, son, and grandson. The British Egyptologist Chris Naughton is fascinated by the pharaoh's architecture. His research always takes him back to this one site.
Well, we are at Giza, which is probably the most iconic site in Egypt in terms of archaeology. It's the site of the Great Pyramid of Khufu, 2 further pyramids of kings, of Khafre and Menkaure. It's the site of the Sphinx. The Great Pyramid is one of the ancient wonders of the world.
It is said that in addition to the famous 3 pyramids, there was a 4th. A pyramid sparkling like a crystal in the sun and casting all others into the shade. An architectural masterpiece, and probably one of the most complex structures in ancient Egypt. Legend or truth? But why is this 4th pyramid not here in Giza? It is here at this site that the most prominent rulers of the 4th dynasty of Egypt are buried. While how the pyramids were built remains a mystery to this day, one thing is certain. It is no coincidence that the Giza Plateau was chosen as the pharaoh's final resting place.
One of the reasons we think Khufu perhaps chose this place to build his great monument is that it's on higher ground than the surrounding area. We're on a very elevated space here. In fact, according to my app here, we are at approximately 70 meters above sea level. So that's quite a difference between here and the land surrounding. So these pyramids straight away, of course they're enormous, they would have been visible anyway, but they got a kind of a head start by building on this high ground. And this meant that the pharaohs were able to ensure that these monuments would have been visible for miles around.
On the Giza Plateau, 70 meters above sea level, the pharaohs of the 4th dynasty have monuments built to last the ages. The three pyramids of Giza are long considered complete. But in 1995, just a few kilometers north in Abu Rawash, archaeologists come across an immense foundation. Vestiges of the legendary Fourth Pyramid, Chris Naunton and his French colleague Franck Monnier set off for Abu Rawash. They crossed the sandy tracks of the desert in a jeep. Was this really the site of one of the largest and most impressive monuments of ancient Egypt? Do we need to add another chapter to the history of the great pharaoh's tombs? The square foundation is clearly visible up at Abu Rawash. But why was a pyramid built here and not down in Giza?
It's possible that the elevation being greater here, he was somehow reaching up towards the sky, towards the sun. In any case, this is what is left of his great monument.
A site chosen to be closer to the gods, deliberately setting it apart from the three pyramids of Giza?
It's only actually in relatively recent times that we've begun to understand this site better, and that's largely thanks to a Swiss Egyptologist and archaeologist, Michel Valogio, who's been working at this place since the 1990s.
The Swiss Egyptologist Michel Valogio is one of the first to attempt to uncover the mystery of the Fourth Pyramid. In 1995, he spectacularly has the entire area cleared of sand and stones. He exposes a burial shaft of approximately 20 meters in length. It soon becomes clear that a pyramid once stood here. But there is no sign of the rest of the structure and the pharaoh's mummy. The archaeologists find a hidden statue. Might this give some insight into who is behind this mysterious monument? Chris's search takes him to Cairo. He heads to the Egyptian Museum to meet Ahmed Samir, the museum's curator. The museum has a number of artifacts from the three pyramids of Giza, but only a few from Abu Rawash. This head from a smashed statue, for example. Egyptologists believe that it is a representation of Khufu's son, Pharaoh Jedefre. If that's true, the family connection alone would directly link it to the other three pyramids.
This is making life difficult for us again, isn't it? Because, you know, we don't have the pyramid, the statues are smashed. So what can you tell us about, what can we learn about Jedefre from this statue? What is it made of?
The material itself, it's made from quartzite.
Okay.
And other statues made from red granite. So the red color represents the sun god, Ra.
Under Jedefre's reign, Ra becomes the Egyptian central deity. The pharaoh himself is the first to call himself son of Ra.
Jedefre is the first pharaoh to introduce this royal title. Sa-Re, which means son of Ra. Ra is the sun god, and by tying the pharaonic line to the sun god directly, this creates this sense of divine anointment, that the pharaoh is the god's representative on earth.
Jedefre views himself as a descendant of the sun god and becomes a ruler with a sweeping grip on power. But did this mysterious pharaoh really build the fourth pyramid? The dates add up. Jedefre is from the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom. He is a son of Khufu, who built the Great Pyramid of Giza.
The pyramids at Giza are all from the same dynasty, father, son, and grandson, so it would make perfect sense for his pyramid to be there as well.
But why is Jedefre's pyramid not in Giza itself, but within sight, a good 8 kilometers away? What happened to the pharaoh in his tomb? All that remains are ruins. Does this point to a turbulent reign?
Jedefre is still something of a mystery for us. There are lots of questions about his reign. Why did he move the burial place to Abu Rawash when, after him, the kings returned to Giza? He didn't reign for very long.
Jedefre is one of Khufu's sons. During Khufu's lifetime, between 2620 and 2580 BC, his oldest son and heir to the throne, Prince Kawab, dies under mysterious circumstances. Some archaeologists believe that Jedefre might have had something to do with his brother's death. Does he want to ascend to the throne himself? Is he cast out of his family as a result, and has to have his tomb built elsewhere? We can only know one thing for sure: the crown prince's death paves the way for Jedefre's rise to power. He marries his brother's widow, Hetepheres II, his own sister, which wasn't unusual in ancient Egypt.
Egyptian girls tended to be married at around the age of 12 or 13, at the point they hit puberty. The pharaohs and those dynastic families wanted to keep their blood pure.
The pharaohs used the raised Giza plateau to be as close to the gods as possible. Does the new pharaoh, Jedefre, want to go one step further after his father's death? Abu Rawash is even higher than Giza, on a mountain. If his pyramid stood here, its tip would have automatically been higher than the tip of his father's pyramid.
It's also possible that Jedefre chose this place, a spot that is higher than Giza, because he somehow wanted to supersede what his father had done. His father Khufu's achievement, his pyramid, of course, is the greatest achievement in Egyptian building history, one of the great achievements in the world. So by choosing a higher ground, he made it that bit easier for himself to do something at least a little bit higher.
If that was why Jedefre chose this place, then he was showing remarkable self-confidence. Higher than his father. A sign of power and proximity to the sun god Ra. A ruler with an unbelievable claim to power. Even when building his final resting place, he aims to eclipse everyone else.
When you look at the foundation, the scope, scale, and ambition is clear. Jedefre wanted to build one of the highest pyramids of all time.
An ambitious ruler. On the foundation, Chris and Franck find important clues about its appearance and construction.
The core of the pyramid was made of limestone blocks, and the facing of the pyramid, what everyone could see from the outside, was made in the lower courses with granite.
Okay.
Yeah, with granite blocks.
So at least at the lower parts,
Yeah.
all anybody could see is this.
Yes.
Jedefre is the first pharaoh to use granite, a particularly hard and expensive material. His aim is to set himself apart with the choice of site and the building itself. His predecessors' pyramids are only made of limestone.
Granite in the lower courses, in the upper courses, fine limestone that came from the Kerry of Tura.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay, okay. So like almost like red and white
Yes.
stripe.
Yes.
Something, yeah. Wow.
A very shiny pyramid
Yeah.
upon
Yeah.
a red base.
Yeah, would have looked amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Djedefre has the lower part of his pyramid encased in red granite and the top in light limestone. There's something else that is unusual about the stones forming the plinth. They stand at an angle of 64 degrees, which would normally be statically too steep. Is Djedefre willing to take risks to build his pyramid higher than his father Khufu's? Even if the structure might end up collapsing? That might be one reasonable explanation as to why the pyramid is no longer standing today.
The excavator Michel Valoggia discovered that the facing blocks made of granite were sloping of an angle of about 12 degrees towards the inside of the monument.
Ah.
Some clever thinking on the part of the builders. They know an angle of 64 degrees would destabilize the pyramid. That is why the foundation stones are not placed horizontally in the ground, but at an incline of 12 degrees. That reduces the angle to exactly 52 degrees.
It was 52 degrees.
52.
Like the Great Pyramid of Khufu.
Ah, okay. So suddenly it makes sense. If you see this, if you see the casing stone on its
Yes.
own at 60 degrees, you think it's going to be very high.
Yeah.
But when you know that actually it's not,
Yes.
it's inclined slightly inwards, then
That's
suddenly it's the same as his father's pyramid.
Exactly.
Wow, great.
In the 3rd millennium BC, the architects managed to create structures with exact angles of 52 degrees. Buildings that endure through the ages. Djedefre's pyramid cleverly uses the rocky ground.
With this plan, Djedefre saved months, perhaps years of construction. So he managed to build in a short time as close as possible to the sun.
But Abu Rawash has its drawbacks, particularly in transporting the building materials, something that has intrigued researchers for a long time. Titting, a limestone quarry in Bavaria. Professor Frank Müller-Römer is an Egyptologist and engineer. He has been studying the pyramids for over 20 years. Today, he wants to carry out an experiment showing how the tombs are made to last for eternity. It is vital to use the right stone.
Kalkstein wurde deshalb besonders verbaut, weil
Limestone was used in particular because the entire west side of the Nile to the Sahara consists of huge limestone deposits.
man konnte ihn relativ leicht
It was relatively easy to extract, much easier than granite, and the huge quantity surrounding every pyramid site meant that they used limestone.
dazu geführt, dass man einfach den Kalkstein genommen hat.
Many pharaohs send for stones from Tura, on the east bank of the Nile, at the southern edge of today's Cairo. As it was then, the Nile is still the most important transport route today. Practically everything is transported on the Nile: people, goods, grain, and the stones of the Great Pyramids. The yearly flooding of the Nile makes the land fertile and brings prosperity, making it possible to live on the Nile and for the kingdom of the pharaohs to emerge. The rock layers in Titting's quarry are approximately 140 million years old. They may be far away from ancient Egypt, but they are very similar.
Der Steinbruch hat die gleiche Struktur.
The quarry has the same structure as the quarries in Egypt.
Verschiedene
That means that there are different layers of stone interrupted by individual layers of loam or clay,
Tonschichten,
so that today you can easily break away the different stone layers.
sehr schön rausbrechen kann.
Archaeologists estimate that approximately 30,000 people are involved in building the Great Pyramids. Administrators, craftsmen, sculptors, or relief artists. The majority, however, are simple, unskilled workers doing the heavy physical labor.
Zuerst musste mal die Bodenfläche eben.
First, the surface has to be leveled so that the length of all four sides can be measured exactly. That is key. Because what matters is keeping the incline the same and bringing all four edges together to a point of the pyramid. And it really is a single point, a fingertip. That requires utmost precision. The pyramid itself is made up of two parts, you could say. I'll show you. On the inside, there's a core stepped structure. That's for structural reasons, so that if there's an earthquake or subsidence in the ground, the stone layers will remain the same and the inside can sort of shake them together a bit. And the second part is that this stepped construction is then wrapped in the outer casing. That means that you build outwards, creating this surface here.
With a construction time of 20 years and 2.5 million stones, the Khufu pyramid is built at an average of 1 stone every 4 minutes. To save time, the workers work on all 4 sides at the same time. 8,000 workers alone extract up to 500 stones a day from the quarry. Professor Müller-Römer might not have 1,000 workers, but he has enlisted a few willing students to help him today. In the first experiment, they hope to find out how the Egyptians extracted their stones.
In ancient Egypt, when the pyramids were being built, stones were separated from each other by striking a crack along a line with copper chisels, striking deeper and deeper until the stone finally broke apart. We've had some stones drilled into which iron wedges are now being inserted, and by hammering on them, we hope that the stone will break apart.
4 students are now going to try and split the 3-ton block of rock with just a hammer and a chisel, using the same technique that the ancient Egyptians used. But the students have a slight advantage. They are working with iron tools. The ancient Egyptians used copper chisels. Copper is softer than iron and wears down more quickly. So at that time, the chisels had to be resharpened every hour.
Let's get started.
And the stone is changing.
The last 2 blows sounded very muffled. That's a sign that the crack is emerging. We can already see it. And just a few more blows and the stone will break in two.
The stone breaks. While the students have struggled to hammer out 1 stone, the ancient Egyptians extracted several hundred stones a day. Building these large monuments is subject to a strict schedule.
Many of the ancient Egyptian labourers appear to have worked a 10-day week and then had 1 day off and then worked another 10-day week. And for them, it was perhaps considered to be an honour to devote some of their efforts, some of their labour to the pharaoh, because the pharaoh was, of course, partly a god as well as a man. And it isn't just people hauling enormous rocks with rollers and ropes. We had stonemasons, yes, but also painters, carpenters, shipwrights, people like doctors and bakers to keep this enormous workforce going. It's a whole ecosystem that built up around these pyramid building projects.
The stones have to be transported to the pyramid, each stone weighing at least a ton.
In ancient Egypt, material was generally only transported to a higher level by using ramps. So they used ramps like this one, pulling things up on it.
Aerial photographs of Abu Rawash still show a ramp. It is used to transport the stones from the Nile Valley to the construction site. The large access ramp of the 4th pyramid has an incline of approximately 7 degrees, similar to this small ramp in the Bavarian quarry.
Stones were often moved on sledges. The sledges could either be pulled on gravel or on wooden tracks laid like this. It was also common to transport the stones using rollers.
4 students attach a rope to the stone, as the workers did back then. A technique which is more than 4,000 years old.
So we take the rope and pull it up, and in the middle it's wrapped twice around the rock and secured.
Others step in to help the students pull the stone. 10 men and women in total lend a hand. 1.3 tons, uphill at an incline of 7 degrees, which is around 130 kilos per person. The students give their all, but the stone doesn't budge. Have they chosen the wrong technique? Or were the ancient Egyptians stronger? The stone block starts to move. The students struggle up the ramp meter by meter, a true feat of strength, until the stone finally reaches its destination.
Yes, so this showed that a heavy stone can be transported on ramps at an incline of 6 to 8 degrees. And this incline is roughly comparable to the valley ascent at the pyramid of Ep5.
However, the route in this Bavarian quarry is only 20 meters long. The large Abu Rawash ramp is 2,000 meters long. The stones were probably pulled upwards on gravel. At the end, the final stone, known as the pyramidion, is placed on the pyramid. The ramps can then be removed.
By slowly dismantling the scaffolding step by step in layers, the workers are standing here and can smooth the 4 sides in the process, so that the outer surface of the pyramid is smoothed from the top down, and then the pyramid is finished. When the last step of the scaffolding has been dismantled, the pyramid was clean, smooth, and everything was exactly as it should be.
The foundations of the pyramid have a maximum deviation of just 16 millimeters, with an edge length of 230 meters. A building as precise as if it had been measured using the latest technology. How is that possible?
One of the things we do know about how they built the pyramids is that they did use basic geometry. It was all based around vertical lines, horizontal lines, right angles, squares, rectangles, and triangles. But what they managed to do was to put that all into a mixture and create something that has lasted forever.
Stepping back into the past, we can see that pyramids didn't always have this classic geometric shape. Towards the end of the 3rd dynasty, a number of smaller step pyramids emerge across Egypt. On the Saqqara Plateau, approximately an hour from Giza, the first Egyptian pyramid can be found. But it isn't just the Egyptians building pyramids. There are temple towers made from several stone layers all over the world. In Asia, in the 3rd millennium BC, ziggurats, or temple towers, start to appear. There is also a step pyramid in Europe, in Sardinia, dating back to the 4th millennium BC. However, the majority of step pyramids can be found in Central America. Researchers are still speculating over whether these monuments found across the globe are linked. The Pyramid of Djoser, built in 2650 BC in Saqqara, is the first step pyramid in Egypt. Older tombs are only 10 meters high. The Pyramid of Djoser reaches 60 meters. This is revolutionary and signals the start of pyramid building. A further architectural milestone is set by Pharaoh Sneferu, He is Khufu's father, the pharaoh who built the Great Pyramid of Giza. At that time, Sneferu is the first to try and give his pyramid the classic geometric shape. He wants all the sides to be the same length and form a perfect triangle. Yet he fails. Sneferu's pyramid collapses due to a design flaw.
The shape of the pyramid represents the hierarchical power structure of Ra, governing the cosmos, and at the same time, the pharaoh governing Egypt. This is the story of the sun ruling over all of creation. And this pyramid, this structure, is still alive today, and anything that comes to a hierarchical point.
In addition to the bent pyramid in Dashur, Sneferu commissions another monument, the Red Pyramid. This is considered to be the first real pyramid, even though it is far from being as perfectly formed as Khufu's Great Pyramid. The Red Pyramid serves as a model for subsequent pharaohs, including Jedefre. Using modern photogrammetry, Franck Monnier and Chris Naughton aim to transport the pyramid into the present. To do so, they have the entire area scanned and photographed. Using the data, the scientists resurrect the lost pyramid.
This is amazing.
The images show what the pyramid probably looked like, high above the Nile on the plateau of Abu Rawash. A tomb sparkling like a crystal in the setting sun, the fourth pyramid of Giza. Visible from kilometers away, the exquisite granite casing. Pharaoh Jedefre wants his tomb to outshine all his predecessors. Although at 67 meters high, his pyramid is actually smaller than Khufu's pyramid, which stands at 147 meters, Jedefre believes he is closer to the gods. The tip of Khufu's pyramid is exactly 206 meters above sea level. Due to its position on the plateau of Abu Rawash, Jedefre's pyramid is 226 meters above sea level. This makes it higher than all three pyramids of Giza. But they are still standing. What happened to the fourth pyramid? To unravel this mystery, Chris heads back to Giza. This is also the site of the Pyramid of Khafrai, Jedefre's younger brother.
As far as we can tell, this kind of granite is the same kind of granite that would have been used in the Pyramid of Jedefre.
Pharaoh Khafrai uses pink granite for his tomb, a hard natural stone considered to be particularly valuable. Much like Jedefre, his younger brother also insists on using this stone for his pyramid. That is a huge logistical challenge. The stones are quarried in Aswan, 800 kilometers from Giza. The granite is shipped over the Nile and then transported to the pyramid. A huge logistical challenge.
We know that Khephren was using the granite stones, at least for the bottom courses. We know also that his successor, Menkaure, the builder of the third pyramid here, cased his pyramid in granite as well. So this became the way the Egyptians did it. But we also know that Jedefre was using granite to case his pyramid. So he was, in fact, perhaps the one that began this trend. Prior to that, with Khufu, the pyramid is cased in limestone. That change happens in the reign of Jedefre.
Pharaoh Jedefre sets new standards. But his pyramid has disappeared, unlike those of his family. His brother Khafrai's pyramid is still intact. Even the burial chamber can still be accessed.
For our investigation, what's exciting is that we can go inside this pyramid and see the burial chamber. So whereas at Abu Rawash, not very much of the pyramid is there, it's not possible for us to see where the king was buried. Here, we can do that. And that gives us the opportunity to imagine Jedefre's burial.
To protect the tomb from robbers, the entrance is hidden. Originally, it is shut off with heavy granite blocks.
This is the ramp that leads from the outside down towards the burial chamber. So ultimately, this would have been the last part of Pharaoh's journey into his tomb. His body is going to be buried at the bottom. He would have come exactly this way.
At the end of a 60-meter tunnel, you enter the final resting place of Pharaoh Khafre. While the burial chamber of Khufu's pyramid is in the center, his son has it cut directly into the rock. The pyramid is built over it. Why? Pragmatism. Khafre doesn't know whether he will live to see his pyramid completed. That is why the burial chamber is made first. Jedefre also does the same.
So perhaps both kings had the same idea, that if you cut the burial chamber into the natural rock, that's the first thing, or one of the first things that you do, in which case your burial chamber is ready. If the king dies, then there's somewhere to place the body, and then afterwards you can continue building the pyramid.
Another striking feature of Khafre's burial chamber is the gable roof sealed with limestone slabs. There are 5 million tons of stone blocks lying above it. To get an idea of how big Jedefre's burial chamber in the fourth pyramid might have been, Chris measures the surface.
According to these measurements, the burial chamber is approximately 70 meters square, rectangular.
After the pharaoh's burial, the entry to the chamber is sealed off with granite blocks weighing tons to protect it from robbers. While the second pyramid of Giza is still in good condition today, only a foundation remains in Abu Rawash. But a 20-meter-long shaft is visible. Is this the entrance to the burial chamber?
What we can see here is that these stones are sloping
Yes.
towards the chamber,
Yeah.
like the descending passage was.
So let's see if we can get a measurement of that angle. So you need a level.
Yeah.
And so if I put this under here, that is very nearly level. So can you see the measurement?
Yeah. 27 degrees.
27. Okay.
Ancient Egyptian precision. The access ramps of the 3 great pyramids of Giza were also placed at exactly this angle.
So the value 27 degrees corresponds to a slope of 1 by 2. That means 1 meter high, 2 meters long. So it was a simple way to construct, to build the descending passage.
This specific angle is chosen for another reason. At that time, the passage to the burial chamber faces directly north, to the Tubin star, which was the polar star for the ancient Egyptians at the time. This is no longer the case today because the axis of the Earth has shifted over the millennia.
The path to the burial chamber was built at a 27-degree angle that points directly at the pole star. Why? And why did the Egyptians associate the pole star with reincarnation? Specifically because the pole star is that center around which all of the cosmos revolves. In many mythological traditions, it's recognized as the one fixed point, or the immovable spot.
The world of the pharaohs sees the stars as representing the power of the gods. And the polar star, around which the sky seems to revolve, takes on a key role. Even though only ruins remain in Abu Rawash, Jedefre's sarcophagus is probably transported to his final resting place using this ramp.
And the burial chamber, do you think that would have been there, or?
The burial chamber was in front of us. So
Okay.
it began here,
Yeah.
and 10 meters away, it ended. So it looked like, certainly like the burial chamber of Khafra at Giza.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Pharaoh Jedefre has his burial chamber cut into the rock underground. His brother Khafrai does the same later on, a sign that Jedefre is seen as a role model and not as an outcast.
Wow. What a place.
All this suggests that Jedefre's burial chamber was finished. But where are his remains?
Oh, look at this. We have here a hole
Yeah.
which was dug by robbers in antiquity. Yeah.
So what can we learn from this? I mean, why is the hole here? The burial chamber is over there. So,
Yeah, there are some proofs that the burial chamber was made of granite.
so
Yeah.
well, and that's why
Yes,
these
yes.
pieces
There are
here.
still blocks here, yeah. And the granite is a stone very, very, very hard to cut.
Yeah, yeah.
The pharaoh must have been buried here. The pharaoh's tomb was probably robbed shortly after. A three-dimensional model makes it possible for the archaeologists to look back into the past. The data shows what happened more than 4,000 years ago. Despite the granite barrier, the robbers find their way into the burial chamber filled with treasure. They dig a tunnel to get around the heavy granite blocks protecting the chamber.
Wow. The robbers were as clever as the pyramid builders.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That is a part of the history of the monument.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. This is amazing.
Yeah.
It makes everything so clear. "20 meters
under the earth, the robbers dig their tunnel, penetrate the chamber, and loot the grave goods and the pharaoh's mummy. This is one explanation for why so little is found during the excavation in the late 90s. But the bigger mystery remains. Where is the pyramid itself? Back in Cairo, Chris continues his search for clues. The theory persists that the relationship between Jedefre and his family was so fractured that pyramids and statues of the ruler were destroyed after his death. Nothing should suggest that the outcast had ever ruled.
It's still a mystery, but we know that there is some kind of struggle between the family. How come? As you know, archaeologists are divided in two opinions. The first opinion that he left this Giza Plateau area and went to Upper Awash to build his pyramid, maybe because he had a struggle with his brother Kawab, the crown prince. That brings us to another question. Is he not illegitimate to take the throne?
Is Jedefre a ruthless ruler, trampling everyone in his path? There is no real evidence that he has his older brother murdered to then take his place. The solar bark, discovered in 1954 near Khufu's pyramid, could shed some light on the family relations. The 4,600-year-old ship is 43.3 meters long and made as a grave good for Pharaoh Khufu, Jedefre's father. The ship is intended to carry the deceased ruler safely to the afterlife. The solar bark is one of the oldest organic artifacts in human history. On the roof tiles of the chamber where the ship is recovered, researchers come across the name, Jedefre.
The discovery of Jedefre's hieroglyphs in the construction of this boat that was designed to carry his father along the Nile towards the afterlife. It's significant because it suggests that he was acting as a virtuous son, that he was honoring his father in the correct way. So this also casts doubt on the idea that there was some sort of family rift which led to his pyramid being deconstructed soon after it was built. The hieroglyphs on the ship suggest the opposite, that he was faithful and loyal as a son.
But if the pyramid doesn't fall victim to a family rift, what happened to it? A simple tool provides the most telling clue, a wooden hammer found during the excavations in Abu Rawash. This doesn't date back to the time the pyramid was built.
Some archaeologists suggest that his statues, which found in his mortuary complex, found smashed. This smashing happened 2,000 years ago during the Roman period.
So maybe the pyramid is not there now because much later, not in the time of Jedefre at all, but much later, people came to take the stone away to use for their own buildings somewhere else, and maybe the Romans did this?
Approximately 1 million stones are used to build the fourth pyramid. Can they just disappear? It is true that until the start of the 19th century, stones were stolen from ancient Egyptian buildings and used as building material.
Ahmed, is it possible that some of the stone that came from Jedefre's pyramid is now somewhere in other buildings, much later buildings, somewhere in Cairo?
Without doubt. It'd have to be somewhere in Egypt, but it needs a lot of research.
Right.
To
okay.
discover at which area might be moved.
Right. We have to get to work.
That's true.
In 30 BC, almost 2,500 years after Jedefre's reign, the Romans conquer Egypt. There are still monuments from this time in Cairo today, particularly a Roman fortress bearing the same name as the legendary city on the Euphrates, Babylon. The Hanging Church from the 3rd century AD stands alongside it, one of the oldest churches in Egypt.
What's really exciting about this from an archaeological point of view is that the church was built on top of a part of a Roman fortress. And in fact, it gets its name, the Hanging Church, because it was kind of suspended above 2 towers. So there are parts of the church now where some glass has been installed so that you can look down onto the older Roman remains. And the Romans were very active in building in this area. This was a strategically important place for them. And this is a really huge fortress. It would have required an awful lot of stone for them to build something on this scale. It's much easier, actually, to find stone in buildings that are already here, nearby, than it is to go to a quarry and cut new stone. So some of the building material here might actually come from older monuments, and it's not impossible that some of the stone that was used to build a great fortified wall, like the one that we're looking down on here, came from the Pyramid of Jedefre.
But that is just the start. Many ancient Egyptian buildings are dismantled stone by stone to set up Roman buildings. To this day, Cairo is home to a number of walls with Egyptian hieroglyphs.
We know that the Romans were plundering ancient Egyptian monuments for their stone because in some places here you can still see hieroglyphic inscriptions in the stone in funny places where you wouldn't expect to see them.
It is probably during the era of the New Kingdom in the 11th century BC that stones are removed from older pyramids and burial sites. Later, the Romans will build entire districts using the monuments of the great pharaohs. Remnants from the era of the Old Kingdom can also be found in Islamic Cairo. In the prayer halls of the Sultan Baybars from 1309, for example, and the Emir Shaiku from 1355. Stones from the lost Fourth Pyramid can probably be found all over Greater Cairo. Jedefre's ambitious desire to create the most exquisite tomb of his time is his pyramid's downfall. A short distance away from Giza, stone robbers can get to work unnoticed on the hill of Abu Rawash. All that remains is a forgotten foundation.
There's a historical mystery about where all the stone went. But then there's the myth that comes through. This is the story of a hubristic rise and a humbling fall.
The lost pyramid of Pharaoh Jedefre, one of the most impressive monuments in ancient Egypt. 260 meters above sea level, made from valuable granite and luminous limestone. Built on a hill overlooking the Giza Plateau, a site so close to the gods, ultimately the son of Ra's undoing. This is how a mighty pyramid becomes an archaeological mystery over the ages, one that will baffle researchers for a long time to come.